everyone, and welcome to Take Two Radio. I'm Pam, your host, and with me tonight as my trusty co-host is David. Hello, David.
Hi, Pam. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, thank you. It's actually nice and beautiful today in Chicago. No rain, but we'll get some tomorrow. And I think we need to pass that rain on to our guest. What do you think?
I think so.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah, you and I have had enough.
Yes, we have.
You don't give me some rain over here to cool the temperature. You will be in very big trouble. From the mood there. Very big trouble. It's too hot here for us.
Even for Dr. Obrect?
Even for Doctor Obrect. I like it nice and cool so I can wear my dangerous hat and my coat, my overcoat and my hat. They are sewn onto my head and my body.
I love that hat. And let's just let our listeners know, of course, we welcome multi-award-winning actress Kathleen Gati. Not Gati, right?
Gati. It's the Hungarian pronunciation.
Okay.
It's written Gati, but it is pronounced as Gati.
I wasn't sure if it's Gati or Gotti, and I know Gotti is like, those people.
Pizza mobster. The Gottis, I know. No relation. I wish I were, but no, we're the Hungarian mobsters. It's a whole different clan. Hi. Thank you for having me on. Hi, guys.
Well, I actually do love that hat, and I did use that picture of you for Blog Talk when I submitted the show, the one where you have the overcoat and the hat, to the side like that. You look really good in it.
Thank you. I have gotten so many emails. Where can I get that hat? I want that hat. I don't know. They gave it to me at the show. I don't know. I can lend it to you maybe, but it's going to be difficult. So.
Right. Well, maybe you should start a line of hats. There you go.
You know what? I think so. I think so.
Hats by Obrect?
Yeah. Obrect. Dr. Obrect.
Obrect.
This is Lisa, Dr. Lisa Obrect. Yes. Yeah. O-B-R-E.
Wear it to bring out the bad side in you or something,
Absolutely. We all have a bad side. Or so I'm finding out.
Yeah.
In mine.
Well, we wanted to start the show out with like a walk down memory lane.
Okay.
And get a little background on you, if you don't mind, for listeners that may not know you very well.
What would you like to know?
Well, I know that you come from a musical background, from your dad being a symphony conductor and your mom was an opera singer.
Yes.
How much did they influence you to become an actress and not a singer?
Actually, they did everything they could to deter me from anything in the industry. Having been, they were like, no, you don't want to be in music, you don't want to be in anything. Obviously, the natural direction would have been gone into. I actually had the grandeur idea of being a concert pianist. So I love piano. But my sister and I have a sister who we studied lessons when we were kids. And my parents were like, okay, just a little bit of music, but that's enough. And they really didn't want us to. And it's very interesting because it's such a difficult path. Anyone who's in the arts, whether you're an actor, whether you're a musician, performing artist, or a visual artist, it's a very challenging path, and you really have to be prepared to weather the storm, to struggle, to not make money, to just do it for the passion and not for the prize, I guess, if you will.
Right,
and a lot of people come into the business, especially acting show business, they're like, oh, I want to be a famous movie star. I want to become a millionaire. And maybe there are people that become movie stars or become millionaires, and the rest of the people, you basically struggle and work your ass off because of the passion, because of the love. And I think they misconstrue that. There are two different things there. But
right,
in my background,
exactly.
But also when you're brought up in a family, they're all doctors or they're all lawyers, you're going to be influenced. You're going to respect that or hate it, one way or the other. And I grew up loving it. We had music in the house. My parents left Hungary in 1956 during the Revolution, and they came to Canada. I was born in Montreal, and I grew up in this European cultural family with music and arts, and we went to art school, and my sister was wonderful artist. She has that talent. I have no visual talent, for art. But I was stimulated by that. And then we went to concerts, and I saw ballet. And, of course, I wanted to dance when I was a little girl because I saw the ballet. And I had such a strong personality. My parents couldn't really guide me, if you will, because I was so determined. And I remember some friends of my parents were like, what would you like, what do you recommend suggesting your child to do? And they're like, are you kidding? This kid can't tell, she's got a minor of her own. And when I was 3, I just knew I wanted to be in the performing arts. And my parents, and the music was good, they didn't encourage that. And you really have to start when you're little, and you have to practice 8-10 hours a day. And who has that patience to sit? Very few kids have that kind of discipline. You have energy. You're a kid. You've got energy. You want to move and go. And I have tons of energy. Even today, people are like, can you slow down? I'm like, no, let's go. Come on, I'm like a jumping jelly bean or Energizer bunny, I've been labeled. So it was natural for me to go into the performing arts where I could express. I studied ballet for many years, and movement and mime and singing and dancing, and that kind of was my path. And I went to New York. I grew up in Montreal and in Victoria, British Columbia. And then I went to Seattle to study with the First Chamber Dance Company. We studied jazz and mime and ballet and everything all across the board. And I also studied privately singing lessons and acting, because I did that in high school. And when I was 3 years old, I was in my first play. I think it was the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and I was a rat. That was my first, step on the stage. And then when I was in grade 2, I think I was 8 years old, I wrote and directed and started my first play in school, made the whole school come and watch. So I was a pretty strong and determined child.
Oh, my gosh, at 8 years old?
I was 8 years old. I even had the play somewhere, I'm sure, in one of the boxes. But and then I finished school early so I could go and study dance and acting full-time. And my mother, I wanted to go to, I studied in Seattle. I continued my studies there. And she said, I told her I wanted to dance. I wanted to be in the Bolshoi. I saw this Galina Ulanova dance when I was 3 on a little black and white television screen, and I said, I want to go. Not that we didn't have color back then. I'm not that old, but it was a small TV, but she did Giselle, and I heard the music. And I grew up with this incredible music all the time. My father was conducting these concerts, and he was always practicing at home, and I would hear this. The music was such a huge part of my life. It just stimulated my emotions. And I just thought dance was the only way I could express it. And I realized later when I heard about, acting, I started studying acting, that there are actually words somebody wrote, because I don't write, but somebody wrote these words that you can put your emotions into. And if you can't dance or you don't want to, or you're not able to, you can still express your emotions through words. And it was just such an eye-opening experience. So I did dance for a while, and my mother said, well, you want to go to Moscow and Russia and St. Petersburg, you want to study ballet with the Bolshoi, you dance with them, you better speak Russian. You better study Russian. So I went and I studied. I took a 2-year course in a few months, a very intensive course. So I learned to speak Russian. And then I went to New York. I didn't go to Russia. My father was moving. He went to New York for a few days. My mother called me up while I was in Seattle. She said, your father's going for 4 days in 2 weeks. Do you want to go now, or do you want to wait until next year? And I went, so I'm not a small city girl, because I grew up in Montreal and Seattle I lived in, but to go to New York from a very cushy, comfortable situation. I studied dance with this wonderful dance company and acting, and I was living in somebody's home, and I was a teenager, and it was just fantastic to go into New York City by myself. My dad took me. He was there with me for a couple of days, and then he left. And all of a sudden, I was like this little kid in this huge ocean of life and the business.
Right.
And I went to the dance schools there, and there was like 200 people in class, and these famous ballerinas, Gelsey Kirkland and Baryshnikov and Nureyev, and they'd be walking around in class, coming in and out, and I was like in awe of them. And you really can feel, I don't want to say small, but you can really feel where you stand. I mean, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anybody. And I was lost in this huge ocean. And then I slowly, bit by bit, I went to a school there, an acting school, HB Studios, Herbert Berghoff Studios, and studied with all the teachers there. And I still did some dance, but I slowly was segueing into acting full time. And I studied with teachers from the American Academy and privately, and I studied singing at Carnegie Hall, and just slowly kind of got to know my way in the business. It was a very slow, like a turtle. I've always said to call myself like a turtle. I love turtles, but they're very symbolic. It's a very challenging business. Even finding your way in a city like New York or Hollywood, you have to find your way step by step. And I had no guidance. Didn't know anyone in the business. Nobody held my hand, and I could have used some serious
I'm sure.
So it was pretty daunting, but bit by bit, a really good friend of mine, actually was my best friend. He passed away 10 years ago, and he always said, you can eat an elephant just one bite at a time.
Oh my gosh!
And it was serious. They say take a bite of the apple, but really, this business and New York and Hollywood, you do have to take it one bite at a time, because it's daunting, and just you know your path. Whatever you choose in life, you know your path, you know what you want, and just patiently, step by step, you can do it. Even if if you have support, if you don't have support, you find your way, and hopefully you have the kind of support you need. And if you don't, you find it yourself. You make your own way.
Right.
Yes,
right.
That's it. Goodbye. No. I don't know. In a nutshell. Anyway, so I was in New York, and I spent 10 years there, and I worked in New York and studied, and then I was moving to Los Angeles. I was in All My Children. That was my first break. I told somebody that story. I was walking. We didn't have cell phones back then. In I think this was 1989. You have an answering machine at home, which either you sit at home and wait by the phone for a guy to call, or the job to call, or your agent to call, and or you call from a payphone every 5 minutes. Did I get the job? Did I get this job? And I called, and I was at a construction site, and I called. There was a payphone there, and I called my machine. I had just auditioned for All My Children, and I got this. This was my first break, and I got this job, and I started bawling. Oh, I was so happy. And these guys, construction workers, came running over. Lady, you okay? You okay? Oh. I'm so happy. So that was my first break. It was just a wonderful break, and that was in 1989. I was on for a couple of months, and then I was actually working with Maurice Bernard and Rosen Evans.
I remember when he was on All My Children way back when.
Way back when, and we were on 89, 90s. And they left the show because they were moving out to Hollywood. So that storyline ended, and at the time, so I decided to move to Los Angeles. I thought this was my first break, and I came out to Los Angeles, and people were really interested, and this blonde young girl, who's on soap, and they were really interested. And then I decided to move out here. So I went back to New York, packed up, and my mother was living in Victoria in British Columbia, and she said, please come and visit me and stay for a few weeks. And this was my big break, and I said, Mom, I usually stay for a week. I got to go. She goes, could you make it a little longer? And it turns out she was terminally ill.
Oh.
So, they say man plans and God decides. But I went to visit her, and about a year later she passed away, and about a year later I kind of I was lost. I was lost without my mom. It was really hard. And I called up all the agents, all the people I contacted in L.A., and they were like, who are you? Who's this? I mean, in a year, they just...
That fast, yeah.
That fast, they really forgot. So I went back to New York, and a film took me to Hungary. And I went to Hungary, and I won the Best Supporting Actress Award. And that it was really a beautiful gift, because it just opened all these beautiful doors, and I started working on television series and feature films and working with amazing actors. Robin Williams came to Hungary, and we did a film together called Jacob the Liar. And I did a film with István Szabó and Ray Fine. István Szabó is an Oscar-winning director. He directed Being Julia, and he won the Oscar for... we did a film together called Sunshine with Ray Fine. And he won, I think the Oscar was for, I want to say Hanussen, Colonel Radel. He did lots of films. I think I'm mistaken, right? One of them. But anyway, it was just incredible people. And 2 months visit in Hungary turned into 6 years. And I didn't want to leave. I was so happy. I speak Hungarian. The country embraced me. There's like 10 million people. They adopted me. They opened their hearts and their love and their respect. And I did some wonderful work. And it was really, I thought I would stay there, but my dream was to come to Hollywood.
Yeah. So but you came, packed full of